Hey everyone, this is Cameron, the co host and editor of Renegade Animation on renegadepopculture.com. If you like what we do, please give us a like, a follow, and a rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to us. We are everywhere where podcasts can be found. If you can, consider supporting our Patreon. That way we can keep doing what we love, and that's talking about the wild world of animation and our discussion of the foreign theatrical distribution scene for this episode. And now, on with the show.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Renegade Animation on the Renegade Pop Culture Podcast Network. My name is Mike. I'll be your host for this evening. Joining me, as always, is the animation guru himself, Cameron.
Howdy, howdy.
And joining us once again is our crazy lemur, Bree.
I question why you keep inviting me, but I'm glad to be back.
Yes, and today we have a little bit of breaking news that I want to kick off this whole discussion of the theatrical market of foreign animation. So, a couple days after we recorded our last episode, I woke up to the amazing news that A24 has acquired the US distribution rights to Ne Zha 2, and they've got an English dub coming out August 22nd, starring Michelle Yeoh, among others.
There's no possible way to overstate how much of a big freaking gain this is for A24 and what it means for the foreign theatrical animation scene and the possibilities of it coming over here. Ne Zha 2, alongside with K-pop Demon Hunters, are possibly the two biggest animated films of the year so far. Easily the most important animated films of the year. Like Ne Zha 2, we've talked about this, was like $1 billion maker even before coming to the US. And apparently there's been some kind of weird wonky reporting that it apparently has gone $2 billion in the box office, but apparently it's not. But
I think they probably mistranslated. They figured the Chinese currency is yuans, right?
yeah, yuan.
Yeah, no, that's like crazy, and I feel like it's going to do well because, I mean, look, if something like the live action Lilo and Stitch it can clear, which probably by the end of the summer, I would be legitimately surprised if it doesn't clear $1 billion. People are so desperate for family films. Like, this is just such a perfect opportunity.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it did very well when it was brought over here before A24 was even a possible distribution partner for the movie because it went through a lot of limited theatrical releases during maybe March and April. And that's how I was able to see it. And our theater, like at least my theater, was crammed. Like we were packed to the gills with people in there. And it's a really big deal. So it was like really odd how it was taking forever for this film to get picked up by like some distributor. Like the first film got picked up by Well Go USA. And while they do have their own choices of mostly South Korean or Hong Kong animated films that they bring over, it was kind of a shock to see such a niche distributor pick up the first film like that. I don't think people truly got how big and important the original Ne Zha was. It was the highest grossing Chinese film, not of just that year, but of all time. And now A24 has, well, its sequel, which has made a way more amount of money to it. And it's interesting to see A24 jump back into this because they had Marcel with the shell with shoes on, but then they just didn't really go any further than that. Like, I don't know if it's just the box office underperformance of the movie or the fact that it just really didn't do well award season wise. I think it did okay, but it got lost or drowned out by, I think it was the year Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio came out.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I say. Wasn't that Del Toro Pinocchio year?
Yeah, it was. It was just kind of shocking to see A24 do this because, yeah, they have Marcel and they have the Has Been Hotel series, and I'm wondering if they're going to have a little bit of a hand in the Hell of a Boss stuff, but we'll have to see just because they have their hands in the Has Been Hotel stuff. But we are seeing a new wave of theatrical film distributors really hunker down and see, oh, people really freaking want to see the animated films from around the world. And to be clear, this is not a relatively new thing. Way back in the 50s and 60s and 70s to the 80s and 90s, foreign animated films were getting brought over, but they were either rare, scant occurrences or what did get brought over got heavily edited unless it was by some like anime distributor that's like they just brought the film over, translated it, and what have you and such. Around like the early 2000s, we of course had situations like Spirited Away, Persepolis, The Triplets of Belleville, and others getting a lot of heavy award recognition, either winning or being nominated. And then right around 2009, I would argue is when the dam broke because of G Kids stepping in and saying, hey, there's a market for this stuff, and we are going to, at the very least, be in the running for, like, as the third party distributor of foreign animation. Now, we might not win the Oscar until recently, but we will be there at almost every Oscar season
Which
or
on the
Oscar award night.
which on the subject of G Kids and like their more expansions, I mean, you've kind of been on the fence back and forth that they're maybe leaning a little too much into anime, but just to kind of show like the interest, like an anime screening like a couple of years ago, they would have done like, a 2-night limited screening or whatever. Maybe it would have made it like $1 million or whatever. But the second Don Don movie, which is literally the first 3 episodes stitched together, that grossed $5 million here. For maybe like a budget for those 3 episodes, if we're being generous, maybe at the most $1-2 million. That's insane.
Oh yeah. I remember, first of all, the fact that my theater, which is a bit more, I guess, casual when it comes to which movies get like distributed. Mostly we just get like the wide release stuff and once in a while something random that comes in like limited release. But I remember when I saw the Don Don season 2 movie, it wasn't necessarily the biggest theater, but the people who were there, like that screen was nearly full. So yeah, I think it's clear that there is definitely a hunger for foreign animation.
And to be clear, it's like, yes, I understand why G Kids, because of their parent company Toho owning them, why they're leaning more into anime, and it's definitely worked out for them. Like, very well, especially with the Oscar win for The Boy and the Heron. But at the Annecy Festival, they brought over, like, they're bringing over French, Japanese, Chinese animated films. Like, they're still doing their thing, but I understand that maybe the pandemic had to restructure a few things because, yeah, like in 2020, there wasn't that many foreign animated that were brought over, maybe unless they were like a Netflix pickup. Like there was like On Gakuar Sound, there was Wolfwalkers, and then Lupin the Third, the First. But then 2021 came around, and like the Jujutsu Kaisen movie did gangbusters. Well, and even before then, the Demon Slayer,
Yeah, I was just about to
yeah,
say that.
did like a stupid amount of numbers because of lack of competition.
Yeah,
But
like it almost made the same amount here as it did in Japan, which is kind of insane.
Oh
right.
yeah, that is, for those who don't know, that movie made almost $500 million worldwide.
Golly. Man. And because it's weird, because if you went back maybe to the early to mid 2000s, if your favorite franchise had a film coming out, it was always going to be direct to video or direct to DVD in this case. Maybe a screening during
Like a
Adult
2-day
Swim.
screening.
Yeah, or like, yeah, a small limited screening. Like even the Dragon Ball movies were like, okay, we don't know how big these screenings will do. So we'll do like the Fathom event stuff, and then they made a stupid amount of money. And then, of course, Dragon Ball Super Broly came out and made a huge amount of money while also outing its main character as a sex pest.
But hey, now it's upgraded. Now we have Johnny Young with Bosch. So you know what?
Good. Well, and then it was like Dragon Ball Super Superheroes also got like a lot of packed screenings at my theater. Same with the My Hero Academia films. And then, of course, a lot of good stuff happened after Dragon Ball Super Superheroes, which I still love that Toriyama was like, yeah, we're just going to call it Superhero. And it's like, it's called Dragon Ball Super. Oh. Oops. But then it's like what happened was a few things started to happen. Crunchyroll was no longer the solo anime franchise film distributor. Toho, I think right before they bought G Kids, was like, you know what? We're going to release Godzilla -1 by ourselves. We're going to release My Hero Academia, the fourth movie. I forgot what it was called. And that did actually pretty shocking well. And then, of course, like with this year, Sony picked up both the Chainsaw Man movie and Mamoru Hosoda's Scarlet for distribution, which I assume if Toho got to G Kids faster, that Scarlet and Chainsaw Man would be under them. Which, we're about to go into the week as of recording this where the Jujutsu Kaisen movie is coming out. It's being brought over by G Kids. So, like, on one hand, it is kind of funny and nice that Crunchyroll doesn't have a stranglehold on anime franchise films. On the other hand, that is completely confusing to me sometimes, where it's like, okay, who's bringing this over? Okay, it's this one and this one and that one. Okay, okay.
Especially when the shows usually end up on Crunchyroll anyway.
Right. It's better than Aniplex, so.
Oh
True.
god.
So, what do you think has caused the rise of interest in this, like, subset of film distribution? Because at most, you always hear, like, well, like, at this year's Cannes Film Festival, Neon was just like, my wallet's on fire and I've got to spend as much money as possible. And like I just said, G Kids at Annecy was like, funny, our wallet's on fire. We got to spend as much money as possible. So, what do you think happened here? Like, what's the big uptick? What's the theory? What's your assumption or best guess as to the shift?
I have
per
two
se?
words. Hollywood broke.
You're not
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah. Because of the pandemic or the strike?
Well, I think it's both. Like, here's the more like explanation of this. So, I think this was a long time coming, but I definitely feel like both the pandemic and the writers and actors strike definitely kind of sped the process along. Because if I recall correctly, I believe The Boy and the Heron was one of the few things at the time that had gotten the SAG waiver, so that's why they were able to do it and distribute it on time, if I have my timelines correct in that.
Right.
But I feel like, 2019, I feel like is the pivotal point here. Because not only 2019 do you get Avengers Endgame, arguably the peak of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's also the year that Parasite comes out.
Yep.
And just the juxtaposition. So, Marvel kind of goes one way. We already know the whole song and dance thing with that. We're not going to go and, make Marvel a punching bag because we're above that here. But Parasite getting like a wider theatrical release after it won Best Picture, and funnily enough, that was the last movie I saw before COVID happened. So, hey, at least I went out on top. But I feel like Parasite and films like it made people realize, wait, there's other options out here. We can have standards. And not only that, I feel like, especially, and just the kind of tie it back to K-pop Demon Hunters, the quality of films online, you can kind of bitch about, yes, Netflix should still release stuff theatrically, which they absolutely should, but the quality of entertainment that you can get from your couch versus paying, like $100 for like movie theater tickets or whatever. So that it coupled, with the movie theater prices and people realizing from the pandemic, because studios did this dumbest thing and basically cheapened their own product. People just went, hold on a sec. Do I really want to see this in theaters? Like, I want to get the value for my buck. Because if I'm going to spend like $100 with the fam, I want something that's worth my while.
Right. I think a lot of that was the case. I think another thing that happened and why Sony is so chummy with Netflix is the fact that the Mitchells versus the Machines did stupidly well on Netflix.
Stupid
yes.
well. I remember I was in some animation networking group in the time, and I didn't get the exact internal numbers, but it did so well that Netflix was reevaluating its plans for how to handle its animation studio and what kind of films they wanted to get the rights to.
Well, it's like before the Mitchells versus the Machines broke the internet. I don't know if I want to see what that visual looks like. 2019 was a very good year for Netflix in general. Like, of course, 2018 had their big Oscar award film, Roma. But 2019, they had both the Cannes and Annecy winner and the Animation as Film winner, I Lost My Body, which is the French CGI film about the hand moving on its own, trying to get back to its owner and such.
Oh yeah.
And Klaus. And it was one of
Right.
those years where I don't think G Kids got a nomination that year, even though they really could have if.
Well, I think that was a tough year because that was the year Spider-Verse came out.
Because 2019 had Klaus, I Lost My Body, Toy Story 4, and let's see here. Oh yeah, Missing Link and How to Train Your Dragon. Yeah, they really could have actually gotten in there if they handled the Weathering with You hype better, but
yeah, that was a missed opportunity.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then 2020 they got in with Wolfwalkers, but that was mostly an Apple thing, which Apple, they pretty much ditched that effort after what was it called? Luck?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? Honestly, I can't say I completely blame Apple there when they had other things. They're like, yeah, you know what? There's other things we can put our time and effort into.
Right. No, like G Kids for 2021 to 2022 got locked out because, of course, Netflix had, Neon in 2021 took up the indie space for Flea, while this was before everyone who voted at the Oscars was like, you know what, we don't need to nominate everything Disney makes. Because 2021 was the year of Encanto, Luca, and Raya and the Last Dragon. They really could have just left Raya and the Last Dragon off. No offense. And it's funny because G Kids had Belle, and that did really well. And Mamoru Hosoda was like not one of the big film heads back then. It was Miyazaki, Makoto Shinkai, and then Hosoda. Even though it's funny because Hosoda did get nominated with Mirai back in 2018. But, that was the year of Isle of Dogs and Spider-Verse. 2022, of course, had Pinocchio, Marcel, Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, The Sea Beast, and Turning Red.
God, that was such a stacked year.
That was. And
Seriously.
then 2023, where G Kids finally won their Oscar with The Boy and the Heron. Because, yeah, every other film on there was going to beat
Eh,
Elemental. I love Elemental, to be clear. I'm not hating on it, but
I mean, I thought it was a cute movie, but I'm like, versus like Miyazaki's magnum opus, like, if there was ever a surefire win,
exactly. And then, of course, that was the same year of Nimona and Robot Dreams and, of course, Across the Spider-Verse. And then they got locked out of 2024, where Flow, of course, won the big award. And then there was Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, and The Wild Robots, which, I mean, I wish they were a little better at this, but I also kind of agree that G Kids didn't have the best year last year. I mean,
yeah.
I love The Colors Within. Great movie. But compared to Memoir of a Snail, sorry, Adam Elliott kind of won me over that year.
Yeah, and then like Flow, which God.
Yeah, Flow just did stupid well. Like
I gotta
so
hand
well.
it to Janus Studios for how they handled the distribution for this movie and turned it into the phenomenon that it was.
Well, it's like this is the first time in a while where a Disney, like a brand new Disney Pixar film, and I'm not trying to punch down on Elio. I feel so bad for Elio. Like, talk about, you get your original idea ripped apart by executives because they didn't like the gay undertone. And then they had to put out a new film that was just like, the executives approve of it. And then a bunch of animators just said, fuck this, and left.
You know what? I hate that that Elio is just turning out to be the 2020s version of Brave, which I have to tell like a little like quick story. So a couple years ago, I was at Lightbox Expo, and one of the panelists was Brenda Chapman. And when Brave came up, she was talking about how she was still proud of it, but kind of went into, that was tough. And she legit looked like she was going to burst into tears. And I feel like, sexual harassment aside, that was the moment where I just had I will become the Joker moment. And frankly, fuck John Lasseter now, fuck John Lasseter then, fuck John Lasseter forever. Because just, oh my God, I felt so bad for this woman. But anyway, yeah, that is just something that's kind of stuck with me. And I'm not surprised that, Pixar. And here's like the funny thing about Pixar, there's always been this kind of like underlying like boys club, we make movies like a certain way, undertone. The fun fact, which I'm surprised that this doesn't come up more, and surprisingly, this isn't like a Disney thing. So one of the conditions, I believe, at Catmull, that those were the conditions for Disney acquiring Pixar, was that Pixar could not join TAG and could not be union. And to this day,
Ugh.
Pixar is not in TAG. So fun fact there.
Yeah, fuck that, man. Just get unionized as like hell, man. No, so my point is, it's the first time in like a really long time where Disney put out a new Pixar film, and sadly, no one gives a shit about it. I know it has its defenders. I know a few writers who love the movie, but I think here's the damning thing. K-pop Demon Hunters, even though it was stuck on Netflix, probably would have also died in theaters if it did not just hit Netflix. I mean, it had its small theatrical release to qualify for the Oscars, but K-pop Demon Hunters, again, just blew the fuck up. The fact that it's still in the top 10 weeks after release. Its music is charting, which
Like on the actual charts, not just the foreign charts.
Yep.
exactly. And I can't go across TikTok or social media without seeing fan art, like little video breakdowns, and like little like here's the
Right.
cultural reference of K-pop Demon Hunters and
And
such.
then like in AX, I had sent you this video of the Gnu like memorial shrine.
But I'm just saying, it's like the two biggest films this year are like at least in animation is not a Disney film or a Pixar film, and there is, I think, a sudden shift in what what is attracting either audience goers or voters, because even though Netflix does suck in a lot of ways, K-pop Demon Hunters became huge on it. It and maybe
And
it bec like
And like the thing too with Netflix, like they barely promoted it, but I will give them this. Ever since it started to blow up, they've been better at continuously promoting it on social media. Like they're coming out with new merch. Like they're not letting it ride out a few months, kind of a la what Disney did with Frozen and just weren't prepared. They were like, okay, we have something. Let's go, 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 go. Which is the correct reaction to have. Now, do I wish they promoted their stuff a little bit better? Yes, but all things considered, they have handled this really well.
Oh yeah. Like since the movie came out, I've only actually seen the movie once, but I've had all of the songs on like constant loop for like weeks. But also on my YouTube recommended feed, I'm seeing every day like 7 or 8 new reaction videos to like
Same.
the whole movie and the individual songs.
like I said, my TikTok feed is either the anime Windbreakers, My Hero Academia, or K-pop Demon Hunters, and sometimes they all get combined. The streams cross. It's just interesting because, like I said, before Ne Zha 2 got an actual US distributor, it went into theaters by itself, and theaters were packed. Like, almost to the, like, every single seat was packed. And these were like the biggest theaters my Alamo had. And it really is like a switch turned. And you could even say this with 2022 because the most successful film Netflix had on its service were not any of its live action stuff, but was The Sea Beast. Something about The Sea Beast spoke to people. Something about Belle doing well. Like, I think Mamoru Hosoda's first official success in the US, outside of possibly these new re-releases they're doing for The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, Summer Wars, and Wolf Children, that hasn't happened before. And I do think somehow G-Kids cracked the code, because when Best Animated Feature was starting out, it was like the Wild West. You do not know what was going to get nominated or what was going to win. I mean, of course, obviously hindsight is 2020. You can look back and see why Shrek won its year, but then the very second Oscar Best Animated Feature win was Spirited Away. Of course, having Disney backing you is not a bad thing to have. Well, for back then, it wasn't a bad idea. But then every once in a while, they would like the Triplets of Belleville came out, and that is still probably one of the most talked about French animated films of all time. And Sony Pictures basically made a deal, or essentially a deal with Sylvain Chomet, the director, to bring over all of his movies. Because they did that in 2010 with The Illusionist, and they're doing that now with The Magnificent Life. Hell, if you buy the new Triplets of Belleville Blu-ray that came out last year, you get like I think a sneak peek of the new movie. It's one of the bonus features. But then like even then, like there was I think what was it, 2006 that had Happy Feet or whatever.
Oh, yep.
Let me see here. Yeah, 2005. Yeah, 2006. They could have easily picked something else. Are you telling me that Happy Feet, Cars, and Monster House were the best movies y'all could have voted for?
Yeah, I kind of feel like the first 4 or 5 years best animated feature, perfect. Exemplified the categories just perfectly. But I kind of feel like Happy Feet was done by Animal Logic. I kind of feel like that controversy stayed with people for a few years, and that's the reason why the Lego Movie didn't get nominated, because Happy Feet had like obviously motion capture. If you do it, it's not like perfect, but Happy Feet, from what I understand, had like a decent portion of motion capture, and then of course Monster House.
Yeah, having like Dan Harmon in one of his earliest projects working on that thing, which makes so much sense when you rewatch that movie. It's funny to see
Oh yeah.
that.
Oh no, I love Monster House, but boy, that animation is not aged well.
No.
No, 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 no.
You know what movie I'm surprised didn't get nominated that year? Paprika.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
God.
Hollywood really just let Satoshi Kon go on the wayside, man. Like 4 movies in one show, and yet it's all bangers.
Yeah. What a
like,
Chad. I hate he isn't with us anymore.
especially with his last project he was working on, the robots road trip thing was like, oh, that sounds kind of neat. And then of course, Studio Madhouse is, I think it was Studio Madhouse saying, or Production IG said, we're not going to make this movie unless we can find someone who can match Satoshi Kon in spirit and like directing style, and then we'll finish it, which is pretty much the fancy way of saying we're never finishing this movie. Don't stop asking us to. Like I get it. It's like it's the mindset of finish his movie, let his legacy go out, but it's also like the movie wasn't even done or in foreign production, and you're telling me you want to see it done. Like unless he had a design bible ready for to make the whole movie with.
Yeah, I
No.
mean that's kind of hard because then you kind of get a Steven Spielberg, Stanley Kubrick like AI type of scenario, which is yeah.
Yeah, nope. And then it's like, yeah, 2007 had Persepolis, and that was the same year as Ratatouille and the shockingly good Surf's Up. And then, yeah, like nothing in 2008 because apparently someone said, you know what? We don't need to like nominate anything else other than Wally, Kung Fu Panda, and Bolt for some reason.
Which
Oh,
one of these things is not like the
the
other?
other. I mean, hey, I love that pigeon sequence and stuff, like where the LA pigeons come up to Bolt
Mhm.
and are just like trying to pitch their ideas for the new show and such. And then it's just like their personal assistant comes in. It's like, hi, ugh. And this is our personal assistant, Billy. But then, yeah, 2009, that's when G Kids broke through. They had The Secret of Kells, which is, of course, by Tom Moore and such. And ever since then, they've pretty much been going in at all times, almost every year at least. Not 2010, because, The Illusionist, How to Train Your Dragon, and Toy Story 3. I swore, I thought Tangled got nominated during that year.
No, I don't believe it did, but yeah.
No, it didn't.
Yeah,
So
but 2010 was kind of going to a buzzsaw. I kind of feel like the Tangled situation you can explain because Tangled's production history was troubled to say the least, and
oh,
it
yeah.
kind of underperformed. So I think Disney didn't push it that hard, except for like best original song.
Right. No, that makes sense, but still, it's like, it's like that, the Bear Bear situation. It's just like, yeah, it was nominated, right? No, wait, what? No? What?
I know. I was almost convinced at one point, like, wait, are you sure it wasn't nominated? But
Yeah, no, I don't think Tangled did better because I think Tangled did better in like home video sales and kind of built up that way. But no, in theaters, I don't think Tangled did well at all because I think that was the same, like, it came out a week after Deathly Hallows Part 1, so it just basically ran into a buzzsaw.
Ugh, Disney, man, they did that a lot. And then, like, the year
And then
after that,
they did it like months later with the fucking Winnie the Pooh movie with Deathly Hallows Part 2. Like, why are you doing this?
That was just cruel. Why would you do that, knowing
Well,
what you were up against?
No, it's like the same excuse, with The Princess and the Frog and Avatar. Like, oh, I guess people don't like 2D animation. Oh well.
like, you put it there, man. Shut the fuck up.
Like, you could have put it in a less crowded month.
But yeah, then, like, in 2011, G Kids also had, like, A Cat in Paris and Chico and Rita. They got skipped over with 2012, which I have to recall or remember what they brought out that time period, but, no offense, they could have easily not had Brave in there and such, but that was also the year.
No. First of all, the current incarnation of Brave, I fucking hate. Like, literally, it's one of the movies that every time I watch it, I hate it a little bit more. It had no business winning there. The fact that it won is a travesty.
I mean, like, over films like Frankenweenie, Paranorman, and The Pirates Band of Misfits, or even Wreck-It Ralph, it's like...
Yeah, I know, because that was the year I was getting so hard for Frankenweenie. I was like, okay, Tim Burton's finally going to get his Oscar. Let's go, bitch. Let's go. And then it didn't happen.
No. But then in 2013, like, G Kids got in once. Well, I guess if you want to be pedantic, you could say twice, because now they own the distribution rights to The Wind Rises, but they got in with Ernest and Celestine, which they could have gotten more if, no offense, they could have easily kicked off The Croods and Despicable Me too, but I get it. 2013 wasn't a great year for animation.
No, sadly.
But 2014, they could have won. They had Song of the Sea and The Tale of Princess Kaguya, which are phenomenal movies.
But then they ran into a little tiny film.
Yeah. And then Big Hero 6 won.
No. Big Hero 6 is 2015. 2014 was Frozen.
Well, no.
Actually, that was 2013.
Yes, no, I meant that, but the award season was in 2014.
I see what you mean. Okay, yeah. 2015, they got 2 films in there, Boy in the World, and then When Marnie Was There. 2016, they had 1 movie, My Life as a Zucchini. 2017 had The Breadwinner, which, yeah, they could have also put in a few other films like Bird Boy and The Forgotten Children and Napping Princess. They really didn't need the Boss Baby in there. I get why Ferdinand was in there, but that's another topic for another time. And then, of course, in 2018, they had I would say this was a surprise, because if you go by festival standards, Funan and Bunwell and The Labyrinth of the Turtles were supposed to be the big award winners for G Kids. But the film that made it through was Mamoru Hosoda's time travel movie, Mirai. And then, 2019, they lost in there. And then, we talked about it here. So I think there is just, not that there's not a lack of interest in US animation now. I mean, it doesn't help when Netflix, when they're not either bringing over stuff like Lost in Starlight, or they have the occasional like Sea Beast or Wendell and Wild kind of release. I think that it is just an increased interest. Now, granted, that isn't enough of an interest for people to apparently not go see Chicken for Linda and Sirocco and the Kingdom of the Winds. Where's our Blu-rays for that, G Kids? God dang. I think those are the only 2 G Kids films that have a digital only release, which is so...
It's got to be like a rights issue thing.
That's what I feel like, because otherwise, why the heck are they not on Blu-ray by now? It's been like 2 years. At first, G Kids said, they literally said, we were the kings of foreign animation distribution. We were there picking up the best stuff. And then other companies started coming through, like Shout Factory, Janus Films with Flow, Neon jumped into the fray with Flea, and then Arco this year, which was one of the big con and Annecy winners, which I'm sure we're going to see it at Animation as Film. Like, if I had to take a wild guess, Arco is going to be the front runner for, or at least one of the front runners for Best Animated Feature alongside Ne Zha 2 if A24 doesn't drop the ball.
I really
And
hope
Netflix will
they.
have K-pop Demon
It-
Hunters.
I feel is it this year or next year that the new rules go into effect? Because I'm kind of curious
Remind me, what is the new rule?
that you actually have to watch the films that you vote for.
Oh, right.
Yeah, how are they going to keep track of that, man? Like,
I hope that rule goes into effect this year. If not this year, then certainly next year.
They'll probably have some like metric thing like Face ID. There's like something they could do in Screener. Like I'm sure they have some system in place because I have the feeling, considering like how many anonymous Oscar voter articles come out, that they're not just going to go by the honor system.
They can't continue to do that and still maintain their credibility. They have to
No,
start...
this isn't the Academy. This isn't the Golden Globes. Like we have some standards here.
Exactly. They have to start cracking down on membership and them actually...
Not only that, but you don't want screeners leaking out. Like that's unprofessional. Like just giving your kids, I'm like, that's just such a bad look.
yeah, I let my kid watch the movie and pick the animated nominee because I don't give a shit. And it's just like,
Right, but you're letting screeners potentially leak. Like, no, because there's a reason why for like the last decade, there's so many Oscar screeners have ended up online with like the watermark on them.
yeah. I think the new rules go into effect next year, so
Yeah,
who
that's what I
knows?
thought because probably like when they enacted it, it's like too far away because it's like almost mid-calendar year. That wouldn't necessarily like be fair. And plus, they probably have to do like all the literature, blah 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 blah.
Right. I mean, it's like, it's a shame that they didn't think about doing it now because it's like I said, in 2021, it's like there were way better movies out there than just Luca and Kanto and Raya and the Last Dragon. You could have nominated Belle. There was what else for 2021? Not Earwig and the Witch.
Ooh.
God no.
I know. I was like,
Oh, poor Goro.
I know, but it's like the Deer King, Innu-Oh, Goodbye Don Glees, the Evangelion films, Unicorn Wars, the first Slam Dunk, Blue Giant.
Summon of the
Which
Gods.
I feel bad for the Blue Giant because that was an amazing movie that got thrown under the bus because G Kids was like, we're going all the way with Boy and the Heron and such. So
I kind of feel like that year, you literally just could have put a bunch of random movies like in a hat and just picked one out, and it probably would have been a better choice.
the thing is, like with this year, they have like a ton of movies that like people should go see. Like there's 100 meters, there's All You Need Is Kill, there's Another World, there's Chow, which Chow won the awards at the Annecy Film Festival. And I think opened pretty positively to Japan cuts. And then they also have the little Amelie or the character of Rain. Obviously, I think it's going to be hard for other distributors like Neon, Shout Factory, Janus, and such to pick up certain animated films. And as much as I'd like to think they are open and willing to bring over the more artful experimental stuff, I think they'd be losing a lot of money on it because as much as like the audience is craving more foreign animation, there's a limit to that. And if you go like maybe a few inches out of like into the more abstract world of animation and like I think people have a limit to
Like,
their art
I feel
intake.
like the only distributor off the top of my head that would be into that would be Annapurna because Meg Ellison has like stupid money and she's just like, yeah, whatever. I don't care.
Yeah, I could see that. But it is like a big deal to see that like Arco, which if you would have asked me who would have picked up Arco, Yeah, I thought it was going to be G Kids, and then Neon was just like, nope, we're buying that one. And there were some films last year where I was like, why is no one picking these up? Like, oh, Mike, what was that stop motion film by the director of My Life as a Zucchini? Was it like
Oh,
Savages or something?
Savages.
Yeah, and Toto Chan and the Girl in the Window, which is an amazing movie, and it is a Toho distributed movie in Japan. Someone is just like, no, we're not going to bring that movie over, and it's just like, well, I want to show people this movie, and it's like, no. It's like the little angels or cherubs from Hell of a Boss. Yeah, no, no,
Sorry,
no,
no.
no,
Oh no.
no, no, no.
The fact that that stupid deer is voiced by Viv is hilarious.
But that's how I feel because, like I said, I think the more approachable foreign animated films are going to start getting brought over more and more. Like Netflix bought like a lot of the ones that went into like some kind of limbo during the pandemic. Like there were like a lot of animated films from Japan that were supposed to come out, and then of course the pandemic delayed everything, and then Netflix was like, "Hey guys, we need a little bit of content for our service. Do you mind if we buy your movie?"
And then you can at least break even on this, so it's not a total loss. Cool,
Thanks,
thanks.
bye. I mean, they had that. Oh, Mike, what was that film? Her Blue Sky. That we
Yes.
talked about. Great movie. Came out way back in 2019, and it took freaking forever for Netflix to be like, "Oh, right, we got this movie that we bought the rights to." And it's just like, "Oh my god, Netflix."
Like Netflix, like never in my life have I had such conflicted feelings. Because also for like every good thing Netflix does, it's like borderline canceled out by something fucking stupid. Which, by the way, I'm debating whether or not I'm going to this. One of the Netflix houses is opening up near me, and it's like going to be the first location. So
Oh boy. Well, and it's funny because like Netflix is like, we'll go all in on South Korean like media and TV and movies and such because it's super popular because of stuff like Squid Game. But then it's like nobody knows about Lost in Starlight, and that bugs the daylights out of me. That is one of the best movies of the year, and unfortunately, Netflix was like, "Here's a teaser, here's a trailer."
And then here's nothing.
Yeah, good luck.
which honestly, like, that just seems to be Netflix modus operandi. Because they did the same thing with like K-pop Demon Hunters. Like, there are some promo images, but there was like no fucking trailer until 2 weeks before that thing came out.
Although
God,
apparently that's
it's
all they needed because look how big it's gotten.
well, it's like K-pop Demon Hunters is doing numbers that they haven't had since the Sea Beast in terms, at least in terms of animated films. Their last few stuff was like, yeah, whatever, not the greatest stuff, especially since they went with a more quantity over quality thing with Animal
It,
Logic and such.
and also rescuing Skydance's ass, which has had questionable returns on investment.
Golly, ugh. So I guess like let's go into like what do you think the future is? Do you think we're going to see more companies start bringing stuff over, or is it going to be like Amazon and Disney will pick up something and then barely talk about it? Or do you
It,
think it's going to be like G Kids is going to be the mainstay, or are A24 and Neon going to start like pushing the pedal to the metal and such? Because as much as it did kind of work out for Robot Dreams and Neon booked that release schedule up
mhm.
where it's like, yeah, let's bring over an Oscar nominated movie 3 months after it was nominated.
Yeah,
You
that I can't get over.
I hope they learn their lesson and do not make the same mistake with Arco, especially if it is starting to get nominated for all the critics group circle awards and all like the other minor awards before like the Academy nominations. But also I want to see how A24 handles Ne Zha 2, because if that re-release does gangbusters, then you'll start to see more, I guess, the mainstream indie distributors like trying to take on more animated features.
Yeah. And then, Cameron, just to go back to your question about Amazon Disney, I kind of have like a two part on that. So if it was Disney of like 2013, 2014, I would say yes. But Disney as a company is just like so lost right now that I think they're so focused on like, oh, our legacy IPs. I don't think they're in that business. Amazon maybe, because they still have like some anime stuff. It is because that study came out. It's a couple of weeks ago. Amazon's still one of the biggest platforms out there, and I feel like Disney, like as far as they're gonna go, it's gonna be stuff for like Hulu, Disney Plus for like TV stuff. I don't think movie wise they're gonna lean necessarily in that direction. But to add to part two of your question, my prediction for the future is I think a lot of these smaller distributors, they're going to blow up. Like, I feel like this is almost like a course correction for what the industry is that a lot of the studios that have had like the big market share for the longest time, it's not going to be quick, but they're going to see as very slow encroachment on their territory. I mean, yeah, sure you'll have your tent poles, but I think you'll find in the next 5 to 10 years that you're going to see less of these big powerhouse studios having like the vast majority of the market share.
Oh, so we're kind of seeing like a changing of the guard. Like no longer are we having like the big five sitting on top of the mountain. Now it's the little guys who are making their way up top.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to see the return of the mid to low budget film that like the last 10 or 15 years of like, we're making these 200 $300 million budget films that have to make like $1.5 billion to break even. I feel like Endgame was the peak of that, and then unless your name is James Cameron, it's just there's no realistic way for those kind of films to consistently break even. Like the market clearly cannot sustain it because we've had multiple flops from Marvel, for the MCU, which 5 years ago, a Marvel movie flopping would have been completely unthinkable. Like there's no way on earth. It's like Money in the Bank. But more of these big films are consistently failing, that I feel like there's going to be an eventual point where people are like, no, like we can't do that. I don't think it's going to happen right away. And I feel like it's going to be a lot more stupid decisions. But in the meantime, there's going to be like this power vacuum where I feel like a lot of these small distributors, specifically G Kids and A24, are going to really ramp up in that space, especially for family movies. Because there's a difference between kids' movies and family movies, and families are craving like anything. Like, that's the reason, just to go back to Lilo and Stitch, like that movie's making so much money because there's literally nothing out there.
I mean, Mike and I talked about this a couple times already on a podcast. Someone in Hollywood was like, I know how we can make family films entertaining or like and profitable. They're like, do we make smarter decisions, more creative decisions, maybe not spend so much? Someone get Craig out of the room. Get him the fuck out of here. No, stupid Craig. No, we're going to starve the audience. And this tactic is working, but it's also kind of not. I mean, it's more inconsistent right now, which is frustrating because
I feel like it's, more consistent with the current Hollywood mentality, because they're in bed with the tech industry of like short term gains.
well, it's just funny because I remember Universal was like, the last Fast and Furious movie is going to be a 3-part epic. It's going to be amazing. And then the first part bombed, and then they're like, hey, Fast and Furious finale is going to be 2 movies, but you said it was going to be 3. No, we
Shut
didn't.
up, shut up.
Oh god, and like I think that's what kind of killed Paramount with Mission Impossible. It's like, yeah, they're making money, but
Are they
considering,
really?
I mean, breaking even on those things, and it's not just because Tom Cruise and his Scientology bullshit. It's just the fact that, yeah, I think the big tent poles, even though I wish the people who didn't go see the Snow White movie, which, boy howdy, was that the worst movie I've seen this year so far. Nothing against Rachel Zegler, just
You know what?
oof.
She's doing fine. She's in that Evita revival, which is probably going to come over the Broadway either next year or 2027. She's fine. It's behind
No.
her.
But then they go see Lilo and Stitch, and I understand Lilo and Stitch has a much bigger nostalgic hold on people. But if there was something else to go see, people wouldn't have made Lilo and Stitch a success. And same with the How to Train Your Dragon remake. I saw so many people being like, Dad, How to Train Your Dragon remake is better than the animated films. And it's like, the only good thing that the live action remake did was not have TJ Miller in the cast. So
Marked improvement.
marked improvement, but utterly pointless as a movie to go see. And the fact that they're making a second one, oh god.
Well, I think that was already decided that, I feel like because that's why they cast those kids that
Yeah,
way.
no, I get it. I get it. It's like I'm going through my phase of, if you went to go see those movies in theaters, you're part of the problem. Like my film snob mode of that.
Yeah,
But
no, I agree. And yeah, I've been better about it. I mean, not just because I have like a dog now and like getting to the theater is like a little bit harder, but it's more like, I'm making the conscious choice not to enable this. That's why yeah, and even though it's on Disney Plus, I still haven't watched Moana 2, and I don't have like any incentive to see it because I saw the clips. I was like, you know what? I'm good. I mean, part of that might be the place that I was working at the time. They had Moana on loop, so I could say without a doubt I've probably watched Moana in some capacity at least 300 times.
right. Well, I mean, I get it. And golly, they have the Moana remake coming out. So
Oh, damn, I forgot about that.
yeah, it's like people keep bringing up the rumors that Disney's going to stop making these live action remakes, and then they're going to go back to making 2D animated features. And it's just like, you know what? And it's just like, you know what? I'll believe you when I see it. Sorry, Eric Goldberg. I love you, but I'm going to wait and see what happens, buddy. It's just funny because anime is so popular now, and those Japanese animated films are making bank. They're at least showing up in the top 10, and I think even Dan Evil Eye got like an extension in terms
Yeah,
of theatrical
yeah,
release. So
yeah, I think it got like a 1 week extension.
right. So yeah, I agree. I think where we're going next with the foreign theatrical animation scene is a bunch of these people are going to pick up or at least show interest in bringing over the more approachable foreign animated films, like the ones that aren't super drenched in the indie art house scene. Because again, while I think a lot of people would have loved the Contra Champ section of Annecy this year, you look at the trailers for some of that stuff and it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know what kind of audience would sit down for this. Like, I think audiences do love their art house indie stuff, but I think you go a little too hard into the abstract and surreal, and people just lose interest.
Yeah, like you have to be a certain crowd. Like if you're doing like a limited like release in like the major cities like New York, Philly, like, yeah, LA, maybe Dallas, Houston, but wide release, nah.
No, no,
But
no.
something like 100 meters, that's a crowd pleaser.
Exactly. It's like one of the few animated sports films that we could see. Like, I could see actually doing well if people actually show up for it. Like, I get it. People love Miyazaki. They love Makoto Shinkai. They love Hosoda. but y'all wouldn't show up for Innuo. Man, and that movie was amazing, and I'm worried that they won't show up for 100 meters, even though it has a lot of connections to like really good manga and anime and filmmaking because it's got the director of Ongakuwar Sound. And like, I don't know what's taking so long, but the Odd Taxi people's new movie, The Last Blossom, has yet to be picked up, and I'm wondering who's going to pick that up. Like, I told Mike this last week. I am way more excited about what the foreign animation scene is doing because it's diverse storytelling and experiences than what we're doing. Because otherwise, it's like,
It's
what's
like,
the US
oh
doing?
my god! And the sad thing is that most of the people that are actually working on these movies, not the execs, who wants to make this? I saw a post on Blue Sky that was like a quote repost of a post that Owen Dennis made, saying that basically, we've lost like a whole generation of creators, especially like female creators, like a bunch of like millennial creators, as creators because all everyone wants to make are like reboots and IP. And I hate how crushingly true that is.
It is unfortunately true.
Like, I was watching the 2024 Garfield movie on like the bus like this week when I was going to work. And I was like, golly, I can't believe this was a hit. But nothing new has come from it. So hopefully it did just okay to not invest into a sequel or anything. Guess
I
what
think
I
it
read
was mostly
afterwards.
just oh no.
Yep.
Chris Pratt.
And then apparently there's rumors that like a Donkey Kong movie is coming out.
Oh, Seth Rogen Donkey Kong, like no shit. Like
I know, but still, it's like, well, Mike and I talked about this. Illumination, like, what if they got into it? Like, what if some of these other like bigger studios, like Sony, is jumping into it? Like, I would say Warner Brothers are jumping into foreign animation, but the whole Lord of the Rings, the War of the Rohirrim thing was hot mess production wise. We're not going to get into that, but Sony again is bringing over Chainsaw Man and Scarlet. Like, could the bigger studios also start seeing like interest in it, like to bring
Yeah,
that
like
stuff over?
I think I brought this up last week, but Illumination's like adult imprint Moonlight could be a big player if they wanted to be.
yeah, but they gotta be their Frenchiest French.
Well, it's funny because they have at least some tangential connection to the foreign animation scene because Benjamin Renner, the director of Ernest and Celestine, was the director for Migration, which he's probably my favorite Illumination movie. So
Same.
they're aware. It's like I think these big studios are aware that there's a new foreign animation popularity, but I don't think they want to pull the trigger yet.
And here's like the crazy thing too, just to go back to the Lord of the Rings anime movie, which I know hot mess aside, it was on like HBO the other day, and my mom doesn't give a shit about Lord of the Rings, but she's like, "Oh, that looks cool," and there's a female protagonist. So like, and my mom is very casual, even though she kind of introduced me to like foreign animation and whatever. But the fact that let's just say the casual movie goer is kind of getting into that, you would think it'd be a no-brainer, but yet they won't pull the trigger.
Which is funny because I showed my nephew, or at least my cousin's kid, The Boy in the World from 2015, which is, super abstract, weird, and experimental and has no dialogue. But he was hooked on it. He loved it. And I showed him, like, a few months back, the trailer for Scarlet. And he was just like, yo, that looks great. I think there's going to be a bigger push. Mike, do you have any closing thoughts or predictions of where we're going to be in like the next
Um,
5 to 10 years in foreign animation distribution?
I think again, just going back to what I said earlier, it really depends on how A24 handles the re-release of Ne Zha 2. because like if they play their cards right and this does like gangbusters, it's going to inspire other studios to be like, yeah, you know what, we can do that. If that does well, if the Chainsaw Man movie does well, if Scarlet does well, then 2026 onward is going to be a new era for foreign animation.
Yeah, I think this Chainsaw Man movie is gonna do amazing because I think Chainsaw Man is like one of those few animes that did better overseas than in Japan, or at least critically.
No, it's one of those like Cowboy Bebop situations or the Big O situations where it does like whatever in Japan, but then US is like yes. But yeah, we'll just have to see. I'm very curious to see what happens. To see if they keep expanding or if there's just not a whole lot of push for it. Because even then, like Shout Factory, even though I know they can bring over good stuff, they have brought over good stuff. They help G Kids release their stuff over here. They still bring over a lot of foreign, like cheap direct to video stuff with very few in between, like films that are like actually really interesting. And Sony Pictures Classics is just like, yeah, we bought it. Good luck. Making reference to the fact that they just do not know how to distribute their movies, or they're doing it wrong. But anyway, this was like a last minute podcast idea because, like, I mean, you heard us for the past few weeks. Mike and I were like, "Where's our Ne Zha 2? Where's Ne Zha 2? Where's Ne Zha 2?" And then A24 is just like, "Fuck, fine, here, God, we'll bring it over." But it just led to I think, a fun discussion about like where it is right now. So that's going to be it for this episode. Next time, we are actually going to talk about the Smurfs and Jujutsu Kaisen. So, um, we'll see you then.
Awesome. And until next time, Cameron, where can everyone find you online?
You can find me on Blue Sky at camseyeview.biz. I have my own website called camseyeview.biz where I review animated films and shows from around the world called The Other Side of Animation. I am also a contributor to Media Magpies, your new one-stop shop for media pop culture, discourse, and discussion. And I also have a Patreon at patreon.com/camseyeview. That's where you can find me.
And Bree, first of all, thank you for joining us once again.
Okay. You can find me online at crazylemur.bsky.social. I'm also on Instagram at lemurs1, where hopefully you won't hear in the recording, but I have a very interested pupper, so I post content about her. And then I also have my podcast, Lay Crap, which has a new episode, I believe, coming out this Friday.
And you guys can find me on various social media sites at Captain K42. You can check out my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/CoachK42. And you can follow Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and Blue Sky at Renegade Pop Culture. You can also find us on YouTube, on Podchaser. Consider supporting our Patreon at patreon.com/Renegade Pop Culture. Listen to all of our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. And last but not least, everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. You can escape, so do we. That'll do it for this episode of Renegade Animation. We will catch you guys later. Peace out.